Okay, here we are at Sundance 2022 virtual recipe style. On this section or this segment, filmsgonewild.com, we are going to be talking about the short film Deerwoods Deathtrap. We've got the director, James P. Gannon, with us. James, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks.
All right, let's start. We always start this off this way because people watching this likely have not seen the film as yet. So describe Deerwoods Deathtrap for us.
Yeah, it's a short doc that is all shot on Super 8, and it's about two people recounting a train crash they were in 50 years earlier that they survived.
And it's so much more, at least it was for me. Because it's funny. Like I talked to my wife about the film after I saw it, and I said, I rarely have a situation where I'm going, is this supposed to be funny or not? And I said, and as I prepare to talk to filmmakers about their films, and being a filmmaker myself, I go, it's a weird position to be in where you're not entirely sure. And I said, but you know what? I'm just going to tell James when I'm talking to it, I found it fucking hilarious. And so I'm hoping that you were at least aware that was a possibility. Yes?
No, that was the intention. I didn't want it to be super heavy, like I wanted some comedic stuff in there. And those two people, I don't know if you picked up on this, but they're my parents. So I know that they're like naturally funny, even though they don't know that they're funny at all. Exactly.
Yeah, well, I did. I kind of assumed. that they were your folks, and they are, of course, what is so awesome about it, because I love just the construct where you have two interview subjects who experience the same thing, and yet they disagree on damn near every aspect of it. And that is just, it's just gold. It is just gold watching that and watching your mom go, no, that's not how it was at all. And that's how I remembered it. Well, that's not what it was. I would love for you to talk. The other great thing about it is the style. And I am very much appreciative of the stretching out of what documentary means now and what can be done with documentary. And this is another it's a short documentary, but you still play with a lot of media within it to tell the story. Right. You do some things, so it's not a talking head documentary. It's not, it is literally not a broccoli documentary. It's entertaining while it does tell the story. So I would love for you to talk for a moment on your approach in putting those elements in.
Yeah, I knew I didn't want to do like a talking head documentary. Like I work in video production and film a million corporate videos that are just, talking heads with like terrible B-roll, and I knew I didn't want to do that for something I actually cared about. It was like my creative thing. So I had never really done like reenactments before, but I decided that was kind of like the best way to tackle this, because them just talking about it really wasn't gonna do the story justice. So it was actually sort of my first time experimenting with that. And then like as far as like showing the slides, I could have easily just scanned those slides and just had them like pop in, but I also just felt like that was like incongruent with the style of it, and I wanted to keep everything like in this weird sort of Super 8 nostalgic like film sort of artifact. So that's why I kind of figured out the idea of like filming the old slide projector that's just kind of like moving the slides in and out. And yeah, like I wanted to make a documentary that was sort of like American movie in that style. Like, right. Obviously, topical documentaries are important and they need to exist. That's just not the kind of stuff that I make. I kind of tend to want to do something that's more like American movie or like King of Kong, sort of funny. And that's sort of what I was kind of trying to accomplish with this, just sort of this little, these quirky characters and sort of like slice of life story.
The other thing I also want to talk about, and not to get away from the movie, but it's like you got like a little cottage industry going on there in Brooklyn. It seems to me with the stuff that you work on and the things that you do. And I live in Dallas, and there's a filmmaking community here, and there are
Right.
a handful of filmmakers that do similar things to what you do, maybe not so incredibly well packaged, as what it seems that you do there. But my question is, in context of that, then how do you navigate between, as you say, those industrial, paying the bills projects versus something like this, which is, labor of love and things that you want to do. How do you strike the balance? How do you map out kind of like your year? Are you just taking shit as it comes along, or is there a grand master plan in the world of James P. Gannon?
I mean, work-wise, I just take shit as it comes and just, try and make as much money doing that stuff as possible, just because I'm like freelance, so I'll take whatever job they give me and I'll make that money. And then I sort of squirreled away to make these, make a short. I want to make a feature. I have a script, I'm shopping it now that finally I got the Sundance, thing that kind of puts you on people's radar. So I'm trying to get that made, but that's kind of always been the goal, is to make a feature narrative. It's just expensive, and I'm not looking to make like a mumblecore kind of thing. Like, just, that stuff's great. It's just not my style. So I need a little bit more money, and more money than I can self-finance on my own to make a feature. So that's the big plan, is hopefully this year I'll be making that feature. I've got the script ready. I'm sending it out to people. People are looking at it. So fingers crossed.
Oh, that's fantastic. And
Yeah.
I've got, and you, by this point, holy crap, you've got a track record to trot out there.
Yeah, I've got like 10 shorts over the last 10 years. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, now let's get back to Deerwoods Deathtrap, and let's talk about working with your mom and dad. Because again, as a documentarian, how you manage interview subjects or even the central subjects of documentaries, even with a short subject, that takes some massaging, and sometimes the closer those people are to us, related, loved ones, friends, or whatever, actually adds a different degree of difficulty. So
right.
talk about working with them.
Yeah, this is the third movie I've made with my parents. Like, I had made a short, it was actually my first documentary years ago, in like 2011, I want to say, where I sort of tackled death with them and what it's like for them to die and what they want. I'm one of 7 kids, so like what they want their kids to go through. So like that one was actually has a lot of humor, but very heavy subject matter. So that was kind of like my first foray into it with them, and I think that was kind of their first time of seeing, like being part of the process and then seeing what the final product is. So they've been kind of getting used to this for a bit now. And then I made a movie in 2009 with my mom called Betty Feeds the Animals. That's all shot on Super 8, that did pretty well at some festivals.
Yeah.
So she was super used to what I was doing. Featuring my dad exclusively, like with this one, which was the initial idea, it was just going to be his movie. He didn't really know how it kind of worked, and he sometimes can be like a little verbose when he's talking, and Super 8 runs out in like 2.5 minutes, so I'm just like blowing through film. And eventually I just my mom was there, and I sort of put her in the scene. I just sort of like torpedoed it to see what would happen. And that's when I started to see their banter and their disagreeing about memories. And I was like, oh shit, this is actually what this movie can be. Like, I was looking for humor. I knew it would happen. But then when that happened, it was like this great happy accident, and ended up being sort of the structure of the film.
Right. All right. And now let's talk about like some of the technical pain in the assery things that we deal with. In this case, working on Super 8. You know, is there like one last warehouse in the country that you have to go to get the Super 8 film? I mean, you know, and they go, you know, you're one of our 12 living customers.
Right.
You know, what's the reality with that?
It's actually, you can get it. It's pretty easy to get at like B&H or something like that. You can also order it directly from Kodak. It's just nobody's after it, you know. So I think they just have a huge supply of it. And I'm like one of, I guess, the few people who just buys it en masse to do these things. So like I've ended up kind of befriending the people at Kodak. I can just drop it off there since I'm in Brooklyn. They process it, and then I have a company out here that will do the transfer for me. So like that aspect's actually pretty easy. The hard aspect is actually filming with it. The cameras are, you know, old. They haven't made a new one since like 85. They're not crystal synced. I had to pay someone to sync my camera. But then again, I only have 2.5 minutes and then it's out. So when you're doing a doc, it's really hard. You can't plan around anything, especially when you're doing an interview. So once somebody is continuing to talk and your film rolls out, you have to sort of like pause them, get another, you know, cartridge in as quickly as possible before they kind of lose their track of thinking and, you know, their rhythm, and then just keep on rolling again. So that was, I had never done it before in this way, where I ended up shooting like 60 or 70 rolls of Super 8, which is a lot. With previous projects, I never shot more than like 20 rolls.
Wow.
So yeah,
Okay.
I was just kind of blowing through it. And it's expensive. Like it ends up being like $60 every 2.5 minutes. So it adds up quick.
Damn. All right. Okay.
But like if I would have shot it on digital, it just wouldn't feel the same way. Like it's, you know, I know it's going to cost me a lot of money, but I'm only going to make this movie once, and I want it to look the way that I want it to look. And that's, you know, that's kind of worth the money in the end.
Well, exactly. I mean, because you know that you know, again, that the flavor, you know, of the film is like something that you discovered at the bottom of like a trunk in the attic, you know,
Right.
kind of thing, which is just the greatest thing ever. Um,
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, you know, I'm a fan of it. The movie is Deerwoods Deathtrap, short film, which is screening at the Sundance Film Festival virtually here in 2022. We've been talking with the director, James P. Gannon. James, it's been great talking to you about this thing.
Yeah. It's been great talking to you too.